This is TY back with another video. And today I wanted to talk about Triple G, man. I wanted to talk about Triple G because now that he has, a loss to Canelo once again, and this is the trilogy, so this was their third fight, So now let's talk about, we're going to talk about what's next for Triple G. Also, just look at the hype job and the legacy of Triple G and what it has been so far of his career. I kind of want to take it back from the beginning well, right now, let me just say this. I'll just say that right now, I think he has the IBF and the WBA titles right now in the middleweight division, where Janet Beck just got the WBO title because Demetrius Andre dropped the belt to move up to 168. And then you have Jamal Charlo that has the WBC title. So this is currently right now in the middleweight division. So Triple G has two belts. Janet Beck now has the WBO, and Jamal Charlo has the WBC. So just going to start with now that he still has his titles in the middleweight division at 160. He should fight Jamal Charlo, if he continues to want to fight, because I guess he says he's not going to retire. Triple G is stating that he's not going to retire. Well, then he should fight Jamal Charlo next. He should fight him and make that fight happen for a unification fight. And let's see it. Let's see it. I mean, he's been ducking Jamal Charlo for years, as well as Demetrius Andrade as well. Both guys he has ducked, and he's been chasing is Canelo. If you look back at his career, that's all he's done is really wanting Canelo and chasing after Canelo. He started out, fighting guys, knocking guys out. This guy was on a 22 knockout streak. He what was it? The one that he one of his last ones, his knockouts, was against Kell Brook, and Kell Brook was moving up in weight because Kell Brook is a welterweight. Kell Brook was at 147, and so Kell Brook moved up in weight to fight Triple G, and basically, ruined Kell Brook's career basically because he broke his eye socket, his orbital bone in his eye. And then he fights Daniel Jacobs after that fight. After Kell Brook fight, he fights Daniel Jacobs. Some would say that Daniel Jacobs did enough to beat Triple G, and there's probably others that think that Triple G won the fight. I think Triple G had knocked Daniel Jacobs down earlier in the fight, but so Triple G wins that fight. Then let's talk about the things that, Triple G had done. Triple G was willing to fight Floyd Mayweather at one point in time. There was a time where Triple G was trying to make this a super fight, and Triple G stated that he would move down to 154 to fight Floyd. There was also a thing where, they were saying, I think his Tom Loeffler, I believe that was his former promoter or manager or whatever, was saying that, Triple G was willing to fight anybody from 154 to 160 to 168. So he was willing to fight guys like Carl Froch. I want to say he was wanting to fight George Groves as well, and a few other guys. These guys were at 168 at the time. But, there was one guy that had stood over that division, and this is the guy that had won the super tournament back in the day, which was Andre Ward. So Andre Ward wanted that fight with Triple G, but they wanted no parts of that fight. Actually, they wanted Andre Ward to move down to from 168 from where he was at to 160. Meanwhile, they was willing to move up in weight to 168 to fight Carl Froch and others. So you could see the games that was being played with that. And then they were saying that Andre Ward was ducking, but That wasn't the truth. There's videos out there where Triple G said no, he didn't want that fight with Andre Ward. So that happens. Then let's get to the let's see what happens after that. Then I think that's when Canelo comes around. So, of course, like I said, he was calling out Canelo. He wants Canelo. And the fans was even getting on Canelo. Like, Canelo, you got to fight this man. At this time, Canelo was fighting guys at his own catch weight at 155. Then he moves up to fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. at a catch weight at 164 pounds. Beats him, It wasn't no question about that fight. He beats him. And then that's when he fights. He begins to fight. He fights Triple G. The first fight, to me, honestly, it was a close fight. I thought that Triple G did enough to win the fight, but it turned out to be a draw. It was a draw. So then it gets to the stages of the second fight. Well, the second fight, before the second fight could ever happen, that's when Canelo tested positive for clenbuterol. And so now Triple G is saying that, he's a cheater. And, it started to get personal between Canelo and Triple G. So, and then also Abel Sanchez, which was Triple G's former trainer, he comes out and says that, he was running and, he's not fighting Mexican style and he's not doing what he's supposed to be as a fighter. So basically just calling him out basically for not being a true Mexican and fighting in the way that a Mexican should fight, which is crazy. He's telling another Mexican that, which is crazy. So the second fight was definitely personal. And the second fight, it was clearly without a doubt, Canelo dominated Triple G, in my opinion. I mean, he stood toe-to-toe with Triple G. He was hitting him with all types of shots, good body shots, good uppercuts, things like that, combinations, everything. And I believe Triple G was trying to come on later on in the rounds in that second fight, but it just wasn't enough. I think that was a split decision win for Canelo, that second fight. But so that was an official loss for Triple G because he was undefeated at that time. He hadn't had loss, but he just had that draw with Canelo. And then, the time after that, so after that loss, Triple G just does not fight no one. He doesn't, guys have been calling him out, like I said, like Jamal Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, and he doesn't want to fight those guys. These guys were mandatories of his, refused to fight these guys, didn't want to fight him at all, still trying to chase after Canelo. That's when the DAZN situation happens. And so now Triple G signs with, because HBO, closed its doors on boxing. And so now everybody's finding places to go as far as, signing, to different networks. And Triple G decides to go to DAZN. So he signs to DAZN. I think he even had like a sort of, stake in DAZN as well. And then that's when he lets go of Abel Sanchez. So he lets him go, and I think Jonathan Banks now is his trainer now. But so now that has happened, he's looking to fight, Canelo again for a third fight. That was all his motive, was to fight Canelo for a third time. He's fighting guys like Cez Meta, Steve Rolls, was it Murata? So guys that, no one's ever heard of. He doesn't put himself in the line of fire to fight anybody else. Now, the Derevyanchenko fight, he did fight Sergey Derevyanchenko, and I thought that fight was close. If it wasn't for the knockdown, I believe that Derevyanchenko should have won that fight. But, Triple G wins that fight, and, then he fights Murata, beats Murata, and then he fights Canelo again for a third time. And so then now here on last Saturday, he lost to Canelo by unanimous decision. Obviously, he looked old. He just couldn't pull the trigger. He couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. All he had was his jab. He tried to throw a few hooks, but it just wasn't there. You can tell his reflexes and everything. He was getting hit with a lot of shots, getting hit with uppercuts, getting hit with right hooks by Canelo all night long. So So where does this stand now for Triple G? Where does Triple G go? Like I said, if he should retire, but it looks like that's not what he wants to do. So now, if he's gonna fight anybody, he should fight Jamal Charlo. Let's make a unification fight for that, and let's see that. Where does he stand as a great middleweight of all time? I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of fights that Triple G could have put on his resume, and some of them I'm not gonna blame it all on him, because there was some guys that was out there that didn't want to fight him. They didn't want to fight him. They didn't want no smoke with Triple G at the time. This was the guy that was knocking, like I said, he was knocking guys out left and right. So, but there's a lot of, like I said, guys like a Jamal Charlo or Demetrius Andrade should have on his resume, because then it would make it look more presentable to me. But just only having Canelo, you beat up a welterweight, you had that fight with Daniel Jacobs, but I just don't put him up there among with the great middleweights that we know of all time. Let's look at let's look at Marvin Hagler's fights. The man's fought Roberto Duran. The man's fought Tommy Hearns. The man fought John Mugabe when John Mugabe was knocking everybody out, and John Mugabe at that time was 25-0. He fought Sugar Ray Leonard. He fought some earlier fights where he had to win those fights, like Willie Monroe, and just, man, he had fights, and he's this guy had. Marvin Hagler is to me, the greatest middleweight of all time. If you ask me, I believe he's the greatest middleweight of all time. So we got a guy like that. You look at his resume. There's no question. There's no question about Marvin Hagler's resume. You look at Bernard Hopkins. I'm not a fan of Bernard Hopkins, the person, but I can't disregard what he's done as a fighter. And if you look at the names that Bernard Hopkins has on his resume, it's crazy. He's fought Sergey Kovalev. He's fought Chad Dawson. He's fought Gene Pascal, Roy Jones, Kelly Pavlik, Joe Calzaghe, which Joe Calzaghe was undefeated. He retired undefeated. Antonio Tarver, Winky Wright, Jermaine Taylor, Oscar De La Hoya, and then Felix Trinidad. Like, these are the names that he's had on his resume, So that's what I'm saying. When you look at these middleweights, I'm looking at the all-time great middleweights. I don't know if I put him in there with that list of all-time great middleweights, because, again, and even if you look at even Jermaine Taylor's resume, and a lot of people, sleep on Jermaine Taylor, look at his resume. He's fought, Arthur Abraham, Carl Froch, Jeff Lacey. He fought Kelly Pavlik twice. I believe he had a draw with Winky Wright, and then he fought Bernard Hopkins twice and beat Bernard Hopkins twice. So just looking at his resume, and he was undisputed at middleweight. So I'm saying, like, guys like these guys, I can't put Triple G up there on that list, because these guys, man, they have a hell of a resume. They look at their resumes. Look at the names that they got on there compared to what Triple G has, all Triple G has, really, honestly, is Canelo. That's all he has. That is all that he has on his resume is Canelo 3 times, and really, the version that I think that I remember Triple G being at his best was the first fight. That was the best Triple G, and then after that, obviously he's older, and he ain't what he once was. So I'm just looking at it, and I can't put Triple G up there and there's so many other middleweights that I haven't even mentioned. There's Carlos Monzon, there's James Toney, there's Roy Jones, there's so many other guys. So I can't put him up there on that list, man, as like one of the all-time like great middleweights. He would probably be like maybe, I don't know, maybe top 15, maybe top 20, but he's definitely not top 10. He's definitely not top 5. And that's just my opinion. I don't care what anybody else thinks, but that's just my opinion. I can't put him up there because he hasn't shown me anything. He hasn't done anything. To me, he's nothing but a hype job that HBO created, because this is the same network that was putting Eastern Europeans over their own over Americans, you know, over Black Americans or just American in general. You know, they wanted to make sure that the Eastern Europeans got love, and they would broadcast these guys, and they would tell these things that, oh, you know, this guy is a machine. He's a monster. He can't be stopped. He can't be beat. Meanwhile, you got an undefeated black fighter, and they don't show him the same love and support, a la Andre Ward or somebody. You know, when Andre Ward was fighting Kovalev, they were rooting for Kovalev to beat Andre Ward. They were really rooting for him. And you can tell it throughout the, you know, when they were, you know, doing the, you know, their analysts and stuff, and, you know, doing the fights, that they was rooting for him. You know, Harold Letterman was having Kovalev winning all of the rounds that they was fighting. So it was just crazy. Not giving Andre Ward no rounds and saying he wasn't doing enough. So yeah, I don't put Triple G in my top 5, top 10. He may be top 15, maybe top 20, maybe. But if this is his legacy, to me it was a hype job legacy. This wasn't a legacy that I thought it was going to be, because again, I started out becoming a Triple G fan because I was like, okay, this dude, you know, he looked like he ain't nothing to play with. But as the time rolled on and I saw the things, especially with him not fighting Andre Ward and not fighting other fighters like Jamal Charlo and Andrade, then that's when I was like, okay, I see what it is now. But I don't put him up there. And I think that his legacy is just really now just been about Canelo, about the paydays. It wasn't really about the big drama show and all the things he always said it was. If it was a drama show, it was only the drama show for Canelo. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about, you know, Triple G and his legacy. And, you know, should he retire? Should he fight Jamal Charlo? What do you want to see Triple G do next? And also let me know what you guys think about what I said. You know, do you put Triple G at top 5, top 10? Where do you guys place him at? Let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and peace.